goes! Luis, out of the way! Here it goes!
Oh, that does work. Okay.
This other one's not gonna be easy.
Sorry, keep our friend busy for me.
Where do you think you're going?
Got a little present just for you. Leon, shoot it! Beautiful! Just as planned. All right, let's finish this guy off.
It's done. That is the 2 El Gigante boss fight on professional difficulty. No damage, no merchant, and no using flashes. And just to confirm, I have not upgraded this, and this. In case you're wondering why I decided to do no flashes, it wasn't a decision. I had to do it. Because unfortunately, for the walkthrough that I'm doing right now with professional difficulty, no damage, no merchant, no New Game Plus items, no charms. With where I'm at right now with Chapter 11, I don't have any flash grenades, and the developers, even though they decided to put in a restriction that says don't talk to the merchant once throughout the entire game, they don't specify difficulty, they decided to design this fight with the flash grenade in mind. This fight is a piece of shit fight without flash grenades. Because trying to get that one unarmored El Gigante in the right spot so that when you shoot his parasite, he gets incapacitated right on top of the blast furnace, it is obviously prone to a lot of RNG, and of course, there's no telling how many shots it takes to down this guy because it's so inconsistent. You just cannot rely upon your mechanics properly to do this fight in a convincing way without flash grenades. I do not understand why they don't give a flash grenade before this fight if they've rigidly designed this fight with flash grenades in mind. I know they're probably expecting people to craft at the merchant, but then why the fuck would you make the 2 Garrador encounter in Chapter 10 take an absurd amount of flash grenades in order to do? You need at least like 6 flash grenades if you're going to do that fight with any sense of consistency. I managed to get it done with 3 flash grenades and a couple of grenades, and it was a fucking mess. And when you see my footage of Chapter 10, you'll understand just how fucking awful and badly designed and badly QA tested that entire chapter is. But regardless, I completed Chapter 10 with no flash grenades left by the end, and I was not able to get flash grenades back for this chapter because this chapter doesn't give back flash grenades before this encounter. You've already seen how shit the El Gigante are with their crappy attacks, the number of close-range attacks that they have that just don't fit the room that they're in. They get so much fucking forward momentum on their attacks. And they also get a tremendous amount of phantom range on every single one of their attacks, mainly with their close range attacks. But whenever the fucking El Gigantes and have their parasites out, and they decide to walk up to you to initiate their close range attacks, where they choose to initiate the close range attack is completely inconsistent. They can do it right next to you. Like, they can initiate their close range attacks when they're literally right next to you, in a situation where you cannot physically avoid any of the close range attacks that they do. You have the fucking flail attack, which is that 5-hit combo of his that gives him so much fucking forward momentum. You then have the other one, which is like a 3-hit combo, where he walks towards you and then he slams his right arm down, then his left arm down, and then finally he slams both of his arms down. He gets so much forward momentum, not to mention a tremendous amount of phantom range. Even if you sidestep it, there's phantom range on his sides. And I have footage of this in my Poor Designs of Resident Evil 4 Remake series, the very first part. And then he also can slam his arms down as a first hit, and then he does a counter animation depending on where you are. That one gives him so much fucking range. It's just a fucking mess. If you don't have flash grenades, you are fucked for this sequence. You really are. And you have to run around like a goddamn headless chicken, hoping that Luis doesn't get in the way. You might have to use the blast furnace to force the El Gigante backwards because of this pre-programmed counter he does, where whenever he's on the blast furnace and he's not incapacitated, he will do this scripted animation of stepping backwards or stepping forwards or stepping sideways to get off the blast furnace, because he omnisciently knows that the blast furnace is about to open, even though there's no visible movement being displayed on the blast furnace. There's no possible way he should be able to notice the blast furnace opening. Not to mention he's a brain-dead brute, for crying out loud. Why the hell would he have that kind of omniscience? It's just so dumb. And they can also cancel whatever animation they're doing to just do that counter animation to you trying to use the blast furnace. And the only way you're going to use the blast furnace is if they're incapacitated. And it just leads to a fucking mess. There's no way to strategically get them on top of the blast furnace, like use Luis to distract them while they're on the blast furnace, and then once you're activating the blast furnace, you can then tell Luis to get off while the El Gigante is on there, and you can just get rid of them easily. Like, why is that so bad? Why do they have to make this fight more awkward than it needs to be? Why do they have to make this fight so rigidly dependent upon flash grenades? And I understand that it only takes like 5 gunpowder and 1 large resource to actually craft flash grenades, but again, you have to purchase it at the merchant. And what if, for instance, you slot it into other upgrades and you probably don't have enough money to purchase the recipes? Or when you're doing this restriction that they've decided to not put any kind of difficulty for it. The logic that new Capcom has with designing these fucking restrictions, I mean, I don't understand why they have to design restrictions that aren't befitting for the core designs of the gameplay, or even befitting for the section designs right here. You made me waste all of my flash grenades on those 2 Garradors. Now I'm having to do this without any flash grenades because you didn't bother giving me 1 flash grenade for this sequence. Yeah, what a pathetic fight. And Luis does absolutely nothing aside from doing a scripted animation where he just gets dynamite, because that's the only way you're going to take out that armored guy, unless you have a rocket launcher. I mean, I get he's distracting the other El Gigante, but he's just not doing much. And you can also get Luis to shoot the parasite on top of the regular El Gigante. He is very passive with shooting it, though, because he's so slow in this game compared to the original version of Resident Evil 4, where he was very active in trying to shoot enemies. And it might prove useful here, but again, you have to make sure the El Gigante is facing in the correct direction when you put him into the incapacitory state. You have to make sure he's facing directly at the blast furnace. You have to make sure he's right next to the blast furnace when you shoot the weak spot. I mean, the number of variables you are having to account for without flash grenades is fucking absurd. And it just makes this fight so fucking awkward, like you're running around like a headless chicken and all this other nonsense. Just don't waste time with this. I'm only trying to do it for the walkthrough, just to showcase how bad this game is, and how they decided to put in a restriction that isn't befitting for the core designs. But just don't waste your time with no merchant or anything on professional difficulty, even though it's no different to hardcore difficulty, but at least you get autosaves on hardcore difficulty. Why they decided to remove autosaves on professional difficulty when this game is one of the longest Resident Evil games ever made, and you're just having to restart from a typewriter save and then run back to this key encounter. It's just achieving the same result as what it would be like if you had that autosave, but it's just taking longer. Inspiring difficulty design. This is why removing checkpoints does not accomplish difficulty design at all. I just don't fucking get it. But I'll just conclude it right here. This is a fucking awful fight, just like every other fight in this fucking game.